Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Live Comments. United States is a strange animal. Its traditions, its conventions, its rules are practically made for itself and they cannot be replicated anywhere. And under the concept of separation of powers created by the US Constitution, it's United States Congress, which constitutes the House of Representatives, and the Senate, which has the sole authority on the purse and responsibility for appropriating government funds. The appropriation bill must start in the House of Representatives and then go to the Senate. And when the passage is through with both houses, it goes to the president who signs. If the president vetoes the bill, they go back to Congress where you can be overridden only by a 2/3 vote. So, in case either the House of Representatives or the Senate or the president are not in sync, the budget cannot pass. And when the budget cannot pass, the government goes in limbo. It's a shutdown. So, it's a joint responsibility and it's an individual responsibility, individual of the two houses. And another thing, in the Senate, it must pass getting at least 60 votes. Senate is 100 members, 2 senators from each state of USA, and that is a more powerful chamber. In most of the countries, the lower chamber is powerful. In USA, Senate is powerful. Now this shutdown of US government, which was over after, say, 1 working day, because Saturday and Sunday, they were holidays. And President had taken the precaution that those holidays, the institutions which are open, like the museums, the parks, shall not be shut down. So practically the whole week they were working. It is only for 1 day there was a partial shutdown. But is this the only time that there has been a shutdown in USA? No. US government has shut down 19 times. 19 times the president, the Senate, and the House of Representatives could not think and act alike, and the government came to a halt. The longest time was in the time of President Clinton, 21 days. But then Clinton has another unique distinction. I'm not talking about Lewinsky. I'm talking about the shutdowns. There were 2 shutdowns in the times of Clinton. One for 15 days and another for 21 days. And the latest shutdown, notwithstanding yesterday, was at the time of Obama, when the shutdown was there for 13 days. So, this phenomena actually started recently. There have been, disagreements between the president and the Senate and the House of Representatives many times. Many times budgets could not be passed. Many times the appropriation bills could not be passed, but the government was never shut down. In 1981, the Attorney General Benjamin Civility, he said that no, government has to shut down. You cannot act if the budget has not been passed, because then that means that you are spending the money without the permission of the Congress, and Congress has the power on that. So the Congressional Budget Act of 1974 was amended, and Congress has failed after that to pass it 19 times, and it was shut down. So that funding gap was there. Imagine if your government shut down. And honestly speaking, as there's a question with me that who ultimately takes the blame for shutdown, president? No, it's all three combined. If Senate and House of Representatives cannot pass it, then president can't do anything. If the president vetoes it, the House can override it by 2/3 majority. But president cannot bypass the authorization passed by, unless he has a reason. And if, as I said, if he does it, he can be vetoed. But if president proposes something and House doesn't pass it, then president cannot do anything. And then the Senate, that at least 60 members should sign, gives a handle to the opposition party to blackmail the government, as happened recent time. They want to extract some special permission, some special favor, and they say we'll pass it only when you do it, as it happened this time in the case of illegal aliens. Now, as I said, this American beast is peculiar, and so are its customs. In other countries, like in Canada, in England, in India, in Australia, wherever the democracy is, the parliamentary, the budget is passed by the lower house. And the upper house can reject it, but in case it rejects it, then there's a combined meeting and it's passed by a simple majority. And another thing, in all these parliamentary democracies, the government doesn't shut down. If a budget is not passed, the government is not shut down, but the party in power has to resign. Failure of a budget means, in the lower house, not in the upper house, means a vote of no confidence. So the government falls down, and if that government has a majority, it might be called back into power, or the offer given to the party in opposition. Now, this situation can arise in India, but where the present government has a majority in the Lok Sabha, the lower house, but not in the upper house. So what they do is either the upper house accepts it, they know they can't do anything, and in case they reject it, there'll be a combined meeting and the budget will be passed. And in case budget fails, the government has to resign. Has to. It's a vote of no confidence. And the governments have fallen in these countries. In communist countries, there's no question of that. There's another difference. In countries like India, UK, Canada, Australia, and majority of the places, they gave one budget, one consolidated budget. In USA, it's not one consolidated budget. There are 12 appropriation bills, and all those are passed separately, and then they constitute a budget. Now, this is ridiculous. Why can't there be one budget with all the 12 headings being put over there? But they say, no, each point must be discussed separately, and then the results arrived at. Now, thanks to Benjamin civility in 1981, this government, this country, fell down. The government stopped the working for at least 19 times, the longest being, and twice in the time of Clinton. Now, there's another thing. The US president can never be forced out of office because of the budget votes, because he is independent within the bicameral political system, while in other countries it would not be so. And then, another thing. As I said, in the Senate is 3/5 of the Senate members, so 60 members, And it's very common that they'll pass one bill, then they'll pass the other bill. They'll keep on exacting some benefits, some promises, so that when they go to the polls, they can say, look, we were in a majority and still we were able to extract these benefits. Now, let's decide it. What happens when there is a shutdown? It's never a complete shutdown. Let's be very clear about that. It's the President and the Secretary of Commerce and the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Homeland Security. They come and decide which government offices should close down. As for example, when Obamacare shutdown took place, parks were shut down. This time they decided parks will not be shut down. So there's a difference. Now services for national security, electricity generation, air control, they continue all the time. But non-essentials like visa and passport processing, that can be shut down. So then the President takes a decision what is important, what is not important, what is essential, what is non-essential, and the non-essential aspects are shut down, but the essentials continue. So in 2013, there was a complete public reaction. There was public guarantee that they could not do anywhere. Now what happens? That the cost of the shutdown till now has been estimated at $24 billion. Look at the magnitude. Each shutdown costs at least $1 billion. So some shutdowns have been more, so it's $24 billion. And another thing, which is very amazing, is that the members of the Congress, whether they are the members of the House of Representatives, or whether they are senators, they keep on getting their salaries. Even in a case of complete shutdown, their salaries remain intact. Now, in case there was some amendment that the Congress would also lose its salaries, I can assure you there will never be any shutdown. Now, as I said earlier, there has been 19 shutdowns and there has never been a comment, even as much long as 21 days. Why was this hype created this time? Because the shutdown was practically for 1 day only. This is because of the pervasive anti-Trump media. At the time of Obamacare, they would give it just as a news or not, and discuss it for half an hour, and not 24/7. And today, after even the shutdown was over last night, they are still discussing it. Who was responsible? What's the president's role? What's the Senate majority leader role? What's the Democrats' role? They'll keep on dissecting it and discussing it. In earlier times, they would either ignore it, or what they will do is that they will just discuss it. Now, whose fault is it shutdown? It's politics. So it's your point of view. This time, Republicans are calling it a Schumer shutdown, blaming the minority leader for blocking the bill. Democrats call it Trump shutdown because of his views on immigration. Correspondents say it's a blame game and they support the party in whosoever they are. So nobody can exactly be blamed. It's a combined blame. But the president escapes the blame because president would be blamed in case House of Representatives passes it, Senate passes it by 3/5 majority, that's 60 senators agreeing, and the bill reaches the desk of the president. If they do not pass, then the president cannot be blamed. Yes, if they have passed and the president doesn't sign the bill, then you can blame the president, but not otherwise. So here, shutdown has 3 levels. Since it starts in the House and House doesn't pass it, is the fault of the House of Representatives. If House of Representatives passes it and the Senate fails to pass, then it's the fault of the Senate. And in case both pass and the president doesn't sign it or vetoes it, then he can be blamed. Now, what are the sticking points? DACA, of course, border wall, of course, increased military spending, and the absence of any other three. And curiously now, this is a continuation regulation, CR. It's not passing the bill, absolutely. The appropriation bill has not been passed. They have been given till 8th of February to come up with a bill and to see that the Democrats are satisfied. In case the Democrats and Republicans do not come to an agreement, then of course there will be another shutdown. So you can blame the party you want, but shutdowns are a part of American way. As I said, since 1974, 19 times there have been shutdown. First shutdown was in 76 at the time of Gerald Ford, and it was a long period, 11 days at that time. And then it continued in the time of Jimmy Carter, twice, as a matter of fact. And then practically every president, Ronald Reagan saw it, as I said, Clinton saw it. So all the Bush even had this shutdown. So this shutdown would continue because of the peculiar nature and because of the desire to be able to extract favors or to get those laws passed under the threat of the shutdown. So it's a blackmailing, political blackmailing. Let's see what happens on 8th of February. But as I said, this American beast, peculiar as it is at least an interesting study in the psychology of man. How the so-called public-spirited people can be mean, can be thoughtless. They talk of the austerity and waste billions of dollars. Imagine wasting $24 billion for not doing anything. Coming back to zero and then starting again. Can any more be said? Do you need any other example for stupidity and greed and avarice and selfishness of the leaders, so-called leaders, the so-called visionaries who control our lives? I shudder to think that their vision is a nightmare for the millions and millions of people. Thank you.